Welcome to the Dash Mindset Podcast. I'm Sherry Zudenbergen. You were born, you're gonna die, and your adventure is your dash in between. So make the most of it. Unlock your potential in all aspects of your dash by embracing your uniqueness and living in a way that's authentic to you, not by doing more things, but by focusing on the right things. I'm a former corporate leader turned coach who's on my own journey, and I'm passionate about helping you on your journey too. So on the podcast, we'll explore how to live authentically by deciphering who you truly are and what you truly want. Are you ready to take a step toward designing your dash? Someday doesn't actually exist, so let's do it now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dash Mindset Podcast. Thanks for being here. Today, I am so thrilled to have Kris Lehman here. She is just such a bright light on this planet, and I'm excited to have her here. So Kris, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've been excited all week.
So Kris and I recently met because our friend Tom Hicks said, Sherry, you need to know Kris. And she has an organization called The Common Thread. And so I said, okay, yeah, I trust you, Tom. Whatever. I'll go out there, find Kris, tell her that we need to be friends. And he was absolutely right. So yes, we were fast friends and you'll love her too. So Kris, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, thank you. Well, good, because I was just going to be your friend, whether you liked it or not. So I'm glad you agree. I'm glad we're in agreement on that. Okay, so Kris, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah. Oh, and I have to start with I'm fortunate that I've got two work loves. So, my first work love is always going to be human resources. I was on hiatus from college a long time ago, and I quit because I really didn't know what I was going for. And while I was on that break, I ended up working for an organization that did outsourced benefits. And so I was getting the chance to help people who really needed it. And I think one of the other key pieces was it was the first time in my professional life that I'd ever really been treated like a professional. I'd been working in restaurants and clothing stores and, those kind of things. And, I was called an associate and we had staff meetings and I got to hear about what the company was doing. And I just felt so engaged for the first time. And at some point I had this moment of like, somebody's doing this. This is somebody's job who's like creating the atmosphere where I feel this way. And I think that's what I want to do. So I went back to school and I finished and, I started out in a for-profit company and got some really great experiences there. And that was wonderful. And then I went to higher ed and I was in higher ed for about 15 years doing all kinds of things. And I loved that too. And all of those experiences created the perfect circumstance for about 4 years ago. I joined Goodwill of the Heartland, and it's been like the perfect blend of all the things I love about business, because we are a nonprofit, but we aren't subject to donations as much. Our donations are clothing and products, and then we sell those. And so it's not as much fundraising. And so we operate more like a traditional business. So I get the chance to feed that energy and to, go after goals in that way. And everything we do goes into the community we live in and does good for the people who live here. And so it's really been the perfect blend of everything I love about creating experiences and opportunities for people to work for us and to benefit from programs, and also to build systems and processes that help people. And so that's been a real gift. So that's been my, kind of formal career up until now. And at some point over the last few years, I've just felt like I'm coming more into a mentor phase and kind of thinking about what would it look like for if I want to expand my impact beyond one organization, and how could I do that without letting go of what I love, but maybe making room for something else. So, as I've learned to do in other things, instead of researching what other people were doing, I just started making lists of the things that I love and the things that have gotten me to the place where I am today. And how could I share that in a way that would be meaningful and coherent? So one of those things is travel. I was really fortunate early on in life to have a scholarship. It was a national honor band, actually, when I was in high school. So I got to travel to Western Europe for a few weeks when I was a teenager. And with the way I grew up, I would not have had that opportunity otherwise. But it really blew my eyes open to other cultures and the beauty of living in another world for a little while. And so anytime I had two dimes to rub together, I was trying to leave the country. And so I traveled a lot and discovered actually through another organization that I partner with, the perfect way to travel. It became this really restorative vacation where I was seeing the awe, beauty, culture of the countries I was visiting. And also there was spaciousness, quiet time, the chance to really sit and reflect and take in where I was. And, I'd end the week feeling restored and usually without planning to having answered some question that maybe I didn't even know I had. And it's just really exponentially improved my life. And so I wanted that to be part of it. So I partnered with that organization. It's called Eat, Pray, Move. She's been curating international retreats now for 20 years. And so we're partnering together. I'm taking a group of 11 women to Croatia in September, which I'm really excited about. And so that's the travel component. And the other piece was I wanted to do something here at home too. And in my own personal life over the last 10 or 12 years, I've been learning meditation, yoga, breath work, and spending time just immersing myself in contemplative practice, learning how to be with myself. And I've been to lots of conferences where I took in a lot of information and then didn't have the chance to integrate any of it. Mm-hmm. And then I've been to retreats where you get to spend a lot of time in integration, but it's not necessarily designed for any professional or career development. And so I thought, what if I wanted to blend these two worlds and take some idea, some component of growth and development and bring together a group of people who share something, leaders, entrepreneurs, people who are approaching retirement. You pick any group, that's the common thread. And we explore an idea, and then we spend the time in the session to integrate that idea with meditation and really tapping into inner wisdom, into ourselves for the answers, because ultimately that's where they live anyway. It's just a matter of whether we're listening. So it really gives us a chance to do that and to meet other people who are on that same journey and to just be reminded that there are so many people doing good things who want to help you. And being in a room with all those people can be really uplifting and empowering. So that's what I'm doing.
I don't think you could have said that more eloquently. I mean, because they kind of, when you step back, it's like, oh my gosh, you did this and this and this and this, but it all comes together. There's a common thread through all of that. And you didn't, well, I mean, you may have felt like this at some points, but you didn't just decide, oh, I need to pick a thing and stick with this thing. You're doing several things and you're seeing the common thread between all those things.
Yeah.
It's not, I need to just travel and take people places. You also have a full-time job that has a common thread through all of this as well. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say over the last maybe 7-8 years, anybody who knows me will tell you what my favorite word is, and it's and. I spend so much of my life trying to pick, or do I do this or that? Am I this person or am I that person? Feeling like, something was wrong if I didn't know which of these things to choose, or who I am, if I am like this or I am like that. And, something that contemplative practice really taught me is there really is no or, it's all and. And so I could just stop being stuck in this dualistic mindset of that I have to pick these things. And what if I just give myself permission for everything to be and so I really don't say the word but very often anymore, because if you think about it, everything can be an and. That's right. And I see what you're saying. And, it's just, it can open up life in some beautiful ways. And I don't think if I had learned that, I would have made this business the way that I did, because on its surface, it doesn't really feel like it goes together. But it started to really have some common threads between it over the last year. And I didn't plan that. It just happened when I finally relaxed into just letting it be what it wanted to be instead of me pretending like I could control it.
Right. And it did happen because, like you said, you allowed it to. It required you to be in the mix, right? And for you to allow it to happen, not to intervene and think, oh, I have to do this or this or this. It's not like you just thought, oh, I wonder what today's going to bring. I mean, you were certainly involved,
Yeah, true.
but you ensured that you integrated everything that you wanted in some way.
Yeah.
Okay, a couple things that you said that I love. I love that you are multi-passionate and allowing yourself to be. I've worked with clients who thought, "Oh gosh, I need help picking a thing." It's like, no, you don't have to. I mean, yeah, you can't do 1,000 things. There has to be some level of or in there. It doesn't because oftentimes I think particularly as women, we think and means I have to do this and this and this, but a lot of those ands are obligations,
Right.
not,
Yes.
and I love this and I love this. And how do the two intertwine? What's the common
That's
thread
right.
between
I mean,
those?
something like I love my kids and I need my own time.
Yes,
I love my job and I want to do this other thing.
right.
And that means I'm going to have to give something up. So
Yes.
what is that?
Yes.
It's
And
not
I have
just
to give it up.
plus. Yeah.
Right. It's not,
Yeah.
and I'm going to throw a dinner party and I'm going to sleep for 3 hours. It's it's a different and. Yeah.
It's so interesting we're having this conversation now because I'm actually going to present at a conference next month. It's the Business and Professional Women of Iowa are having a one-day conference in Des Moines. And Selena Pierman is the president of that organization. And so she called and asked me, she said they're doing it. The topic is boundaries and protecting your peace. And would I want to do a session on that would include some of the meditation stuff I've been working with? And I said, yes. And here's how I would like to approach it. I have never been great with saying no with restriction. I think as women, we're just taught that we're supposed to just keep piling on more and more and do for others. That's just kind of ingrained in us. So what I like to do is say, I need to figure out what the things that feel most important to me. Like, what are the things that set me on fire? What are the things that feel like non-negotiables, the things that I don't want to give up no matter what? Those are the things I want to say yes to. And I'm going to build my life around those things. And by doing that, I have chosen priorities and I have designated time for them. And I've given myself language for saying, here's why I can't do that other thing. Right now my priority is this, and I'm really putting a lot of time and attention into it. And so I'm not going to be able to take on that task, but here's an idea, or let's talk in May, so that I can give a clear and compassionate no based on the things that I have said yes to. And it's just more life-giving to do it that way. Now, I don't get it right all the time. So I'm not like from a mountaintop trying to explain to you how to be like that. I have to constantly remind myself, and then I get myself in a pickle and then find my way back out again. But, the more I remember that, the easier it is to use that yes and philosophy to also say no.
Yeah. So it's and with boundaries.
Yes. Oh, God, yes.
Well, and you said somewhere in there, you said, and understanding why and explaining why I'm saying no. You're explaining to yourself. You don't, just to clarify that you're not feeling like you have to explain your thought process to other people. It's really understanding yourself why you're saying yes and why you're saying no, so that you can confidently say no and then share, here's some other ideas, or here's when I could do this. Because we also over-explain ourselves and feel like we have to for some reason.
We do. The thing I try to think about the most is there are times when I don't need to explain myself. Actually, I guess if I was trying to believe something entirely, I'd never need to explain myself. And there are some people I want to understand, if I love my friends and I want to spend time with them. And sometimes I have to say no. And I want to give myself permission to say, right now, I have these priorities. I'll tell you a really beautiful story. A friend of mine, I reached out to her. We hadn't seen each other in a while. We catch up a couple times a year. I sent her a note and said, "Hey, I haven't seen you for a while. Do you have any time over the next couple weeks?" And she wrote me back the most amazing email. I'm actually going to use it in this session next month because she said, "Oh my gosh, it's so good to hear from you. I miss you so much. Right now I'm teaching a class and I've picked a Saturday for the next 6 weeks to spend one day with each of my nieces and nephews. And, between that and work, I'm so filled up right now that that's kind of where my priorities are. So let's do a quick email catch up. I'm going to catch you up on all the things I'm doing. You can write me back when you have time. And then when my class is done, let's get together." And I just thought, what a beautiful way to have done exactly that, right? To share with me what your priorities are in this moment, and that right now this needs to be my focus, and I love you, and I still want to know what's going on with you, and here's when we'll catch up again. But like the more we can do things like that, the easier it becomes to say no, because it doesn't really feel like no. And then I can just not explain myself to somebody who sends me an email to ask me if I want to do a speaking event. I can just say, that doesn't fit my calendar right now. So I don't owe everybody an explanation. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love how you clarified that. You don't owe everyone an explanation, but sometimes you want to share it, but not because of out of obligation. It's because, you wanted to know what was up with your friend and what was going on.
That's right.
Oh, I love that so much.
Isn't
So
that
she's
cool?
spending a day with each niece. Why can't I say those words? She's spending a day with each niece and nephew. Is that right? That is so cool.
Isn't that beautiful? So she and I have been friends a long time. We didn't have our own kids. And so her nieces and nephews are her kiddos, and she understands the really important relationship that aunties play in life. And so, so she's spending one day with each of them, even though some of them, so there's siblings, like a set of 3, but she'll just take one of the kiddos for the whole day and really center them and spend time with them and talk to them and give them all her attention. And then do the same thing with somebody else the next week to just fill them up with love, and then also get to see them together at bigger family events. I just think that's really special. And what a cool thing that that's what she's doing right now. Like, that's a great reason that we should wait to hang out.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's filling you in at the same time. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're taking a bunch of women to Croatia. Tell us about what trips have you done already? Tell the world, because the world needs to know. I know, but I need you to tell the world.
So I've been at this point to 23 countries, which sounds wild. It's just kind of happened over 25 years. So it's been a little bit of a mix. I would say my favorite trips over the last 10 years have really been these restorative vacations. So you're, doing boating days, you're doing shopping days, you're doing a spa day, there's an outdoor day, but there's really just like one extra thing. You're starting the day with yoga and meditation. You're eating beautiful, delicious local cuisine. You're building space between activities. You're sharing meals with people, but it's a group of 8 to 12 people. So it's really small, but big enough that you can carve out time alone. But you don't have to get on a big bus, with 40 people to try and, have somebody have a flag to tell you when it's time to come back. It feels more personal. So that's the style. And it really happened. The first trip that I took would have been 11 years ago was the first time I took a trip like this. I had just gotten divorced. I was in the midst of honestly trying to figure out who I was. I share at that point, I had spent, I think, probably not unlike other women, most of my life adapting to what other people needed. And when I was finally alone, I didn't even know what I liked or what kind of music did I like or what kind of shows did I like, because I just liked whatever the person I was with wanted. And so at that point, I was doing a project where I had sticky notes, and I just started meditating. So I was in my little meditation space in my closet, and I had these sticky notes, and every time I would remember something that felt like me, I would say, oh, that's right. And I would write it on a sticky note. So I had this little piece of paper taped in my closet that said, who am I? And over time, I'm sticking sticky notes on it. I love music. I love concerts. I'm a deep feeler and everything makes me cry, like just things that felt like me until I had this like collage of myself. So I'm doing that. And then my best friend forwards me this email out of nowhere. And she says, I think this would be cool. You should look at it. It's this group, Eat, Pray, Move. It's this international restorative vacation with yoga. I'd never done yoga at that point, but something about it just called to me. And so I wrote her back 15 minutes later and said, I just signed up. And so I went by myself. I had never done yoga till the day that I arrived. And I made my ticket for a few days after the trip so I could go to Paris on my own afterward. It was Provence, France is where we went. And it was such a transformative experience. I met some great friends there. We ended up meeting up on other trips. So we went to Bali, we went to Amalfi, we went to Croatia, Costa Rica. So all kinds of beautiful places, but with this same style of trip, where I could, have a little time of my own and also make some great friends. And it ended up just really becoming part of who I am, and who I want to be. And I just love the idea of sharing that with other people. So, yeah.
So cool. So when did you, okay, so not all 23 countries have been this type of trip. It's just that
That's
you
right.
love to travel. You always have. When you've had a
Yeah.
couple dimes, you go on a trip.
Mhm.
And then how many of your trips have been these restorative group trips?
I would say 6 of those. And then I just love Costa Rica. So I've been there 5 times now. So I kind of keep going back there. Italy and Costa Rica were the two. I almost moved to Italy in 2019. I had sold my house and put my stuff in storage and talked to my job about letting me work remotely while I figured out health insurance and stuff like that. And then I actually met my now husband. So this was almost 7 years ago, and decided not to go. And thank goodness, because then COVID hit 3 months later and I would have been living
Right.
in Italy alone with no health insurance. But so that worked out. But yeah, so I just kind of kept going back to those 2 places. But now that I've been on enough of these type of trips, I thought, I think I could do this. So that's the trip to Croatia. I'm partnering with Eat, Pray, Move. So they're coordinating the logistics, and then I can facilitate, do the yoga, do the meditation, and kind of bring the group together and curate that experience that I always loved. And then next year, I'm planning a trip for Costa Rica. This time, I've been able to scout a few locations and build a couple partnerships on my own. So I'll be bringing a group down. And we'll be creating that experience there on my own for the first time.
And
And
you just bought a house there. So
we
that's
did.
kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I think I'm still processing that. Ryan went with me in December, and he knows Costa Rica is really special to me. It always has been. There's just something about the vibe, the people, the culture, the food, the variety of, biodiversity. You've got mountains and rainforest and beaches. It's kind of just everything that I love about travel, along with amazing people and food, and just a way of living. Like Pura Vida is just like, slow down and enjoy your life. So every time I go there, I just feel really grounded and centered. And we went on a trip together, and he looked at me about halfway through and said, I think I get it. And I said, I've always thought it would be pretty cool to have a space here. And, in my mind, when I was on my own, I planned to maybe just move at some point. I said, now that we're together, we could get something that, where we could go a few times a year, but maybe we could share that space too and make it a community-based space. And it just so happened to come up with, now that the common thread has really started, I started to have this vision of how it could be incorporated into this whole idea so that I could curate the types of experiences that I've had traveling for people who maybe don't want to go in a group, but want to have that experience, or at least a group of people maybe they don't know. So it's a little 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom. It's got a pool. It's private, but it's 12-minute drive from 3 different beaches. So it's quiet and also really close to, restaurants and beaches and all the fun stuff. But I thought then I could curate more of a self-guided retreat for a couple of friends or for partners to get away and have that experience maybe on their own. So that's still in the very beginning phases, but I'm pretty excited about the idea of helping to create these experiences for more people because, with Goodwill, I can only go on so many trips a year, but I could help plan a lot more this way. So it's pretty exciting.
So you bought a house in Costa Rica, and it's not that you have it all figured out and you did it anyway. You're
Right.
figuring it out.
Yes. Oh, 100% we don't have it figured it out at all. It's been a real education. Neither Ryan or I grew up in a way that would have had us believing this would ever be something we would do. So we're learning all kinds of things about what it means to buy a property in another country and all of the legalities of that and all the paperwork and logistics and, thinking about how to decorate a house that is thousands of miles away. Like all those kinds of things we didn't really think a whole lot about, but we're figuring out now. But I will say kind of one of the beautiful side benefits of this whole thing that I really also hadn't anticipated was that now Ryan is part of the common thread too. So now my business isn't just mine. It's also an opportunity for us to share in something together. So I'm not dividing my time as much as I was before. So it's as much as there are times when it's scary and I'm like, what am I doing? There are also most of the time if I let go of the illusion that I control all this and I just allow things to happen, the universe seems to be serving up the right next thing or the right partner or the right person to help us. And so it's really become an exercise in trust. And that's a lesson I'm going to be learning my whole life. So it's been a good one.
And that's something you and I talked about a little bit too when we first met is this illusion of control that we so badly want to have. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's so fascinating how our brains so badly crave control,
Mm-hmm.
yet we will never actually have it. So I
Right.
love that you are just realizing, hey, I'm never going to have control and I'm constantly going to be working on it because
Yes.
it's so hard. And I love that you realized, yeah, it's scary, but I can do it anyway because the stuff that's not
Yeah.
scary isn't always worth it. And that's usually a lot of times we think, oh, it's scary. My brain's telling me this is a bad idea. Well, of course it is, because our brains want us
Right.
to survive. And we feel like anything that's scary means that we might die. And we really
Right.
aren't going to die, when
But
it
the
comes to
mind will try to
most things.
convince you of that.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, I think that's one of the most important things I learned in contemplative practice was that my mind is not the same as who I am. So my mind will say lots of things, and some of them are true, but some of them are just confused or scared or trying to help me survive the moment. And so they're worthy. I try to listen and then I try not to make decisions in the moment. If it sounds like a scared voice or an angry voice or a panicked voice, it's like, okay, well then why don't we just sit with that one for a minute? Because that may or may not be true.
Yeah. And we
Yeah.
just take what our minds are telling us as
Yeah.
the truth. And
Yes.
it's really so interesting to think about the fact that our brains, they want to keep us alive. And our minds are just giving us information. It's like this nonstop. I was actually telling my class last night that I taught how it's kind of like a cassette player for those who know what a cassette player is. That's what I have in my mind. It's like this cassette tape that's always playing in the background, and we just have this tendency to think it's true. But a lot of it is nonsense. Some of it is
Right.
true, but it's a matter of really being discerning and thinking through, okay, what's real here and what's
Mhm.
not. So can you talk a little bit, Kris, about what contemplative practice even means? And I love that you're
Mm.
sitting in your yoga studio of your home right
Yeah.
now. It just seems so I mean, it's very congruent with who you are. So could you just talk about what that even means? Because so
Yeah.
many of us are doers, and the idea of having a contemplative practice,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sounds a little woo-woo, right? Like if you had told me that 20 years ago, I'd been like, what is that? And how's that going to allow me to cross anything off my list?
Well, I would have agreed with you 20 years ago. So yes. I think it means something different to everybody. For me and the practice that I follow, my goal is really, I practice on a mat, but I'm practicing for life. Like my goal isn't for, this time of day, I sit down for this amount of time and then I go do the rest of my life. Like, I was lucky enough to find a teacher early on who said, this is practice for life off the mat. So that's what we're doing here is practicing to live. And that helped me, I guess, decide what the purpose of it was. And so that also freed it up to not just be something I sit down and do a meditation, because I will say I despised meditation for a long time because I didn't think I knew how to do it, quote, right. It was too hard. My mind's too busy. I can't do it. That's not for me. And with enough understanding and teachers reminding me that actually the mind is doing what the mind will always do. And so the fact that you're noticing your mind being busy means you are doing it right. And that means you can do it anywhere. So I do have a morning practice where I try to get up early enough to be able to, walk on the treadmill a little bit and then spend some time sitting. Sometimes that looks like 5 minutes. I would say actually probably 3 out of 5 days during the work week, it's between 5 and 10 minutes. It's not a long time. At lunchtime, I have a reminder on my calendar to just take deep breaths for 1 minute. Like for me, it's just a really short practice that brings me back into my body. I mean, for me, I lived the first half of my life outside, disembodied, not in touch with how I felt, with what I thought, with what maybe I knew to be true. And so spending time with myself and with my thoughts and all the things that are coming up, like to me, that's contemplative practice. For me, it's also breath work. I'm a person who has anxiety, and I know a lot of people do. And changing my breath changed my life, and so I do breath work in meetings when, we're in our senior team meeting and it's a couple hours every week. And, there are parts that don't pertain to me as much, and I'll just make my out breath longer than my in breath. And that's something that calms the vagus nerve, activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm getting some practice in. And then I'm able to respond better in a meeting or make a better decision because I'm not reacting to the energy of the room. I'm more in my body and I can feel maybe what the right thing is. Sometimes it's when I walk our dog, and I'm out walking, I'm just trying to notice what I see while I'm out there, feel my feet on the ground. For me, it's really just like, how do I live in a way that keeps me as awake as I can be? And I disappear all the time. So it's not like something that I've figured out now and now I walk around blissful from the mountaintop. Just this morning I had, double booked our housekeeper coming when we were doing this podcast. And Ryan was pointing out to me what was happening. And I said, yep, I'm going to need to go downstairs and think about it because I'm not in a good space right now. I just had to leave the moment. And I came downstairs and said, okay, so what can I see, touch, smell? How do I get back in my body? I'm going to take some deep breaths now. Now I can remember that actually it's going to be okay. And this is not that big a deal. And I can email Sherry and it's going to be all right. And then I come back upstairs and I say, okay, I'm fine now. So to me, all of that is contemplative practice. It's really just as a way of trying to get back in my body, to get back to the present moment as often as I can, when I can, and also accepting that I'm never going to be able to live there because, I'm a human on Earth School. And that's what we do, is we disappear.
Earth School. That is so great. And I love, we're human. It's pretty constricting in some ways to be a human, but we have to. That's what we are. That's where
it's
we
pretty
are.
Painful
so,
sometimes.
It's painful.
It really is.
Right. Right.
And as
I
a
think a lot
person
of
who's
us,
an achiever, I don't want to
yeah,
keep repeating the same mistakes. I don't want to be back here again. I spent a lot of time really angry with myself because like, why do I keep doing this to myself? And I will never forget this moment with my therapist. We were kind of circling around the same. Now, why do I always end up here? When am I going to be done with this? And she said, that's called death. I was like, what?
when you
She
die.
said, that's what it's like to be a human, and I know you really desperately wish that you weren't and that you had somehow evolved into a spiritual creature who didn't experience the trivialities of humanity anymore, but that's just like not on the table. So instead of trying to check it off your list, why don't you just permanently put it on there and recognize that you're going to fall down the pit? That's part of what living is. And the best thing we can do is just when we're down there at some point, remember, but I think I left a ladder here somewhere. And so instead of banging my head against the wall, I'm just going to start looking for it.
It's so great. I think I left a ladder here.
Yeah. Right?
We beat ourselves up basically about the fact that we're human.
Right.
Because,
Isn't that
and
interesting?
I think a lot of us are searching for this, we expect to reach some destination called happiness when happiness is really fleeting. I mean, there are positives and negatives and there are ups and downs to being human. And that's what
Yes.
we are. So
That's
let's
right.
just admit it.
There's a reason
And
that we have a
yeah,
range of emotions because we're
yes,
supposed to, right? There's
right.
not just one. Yeah.
Yet we beat ourselves up for it, for
I know.
basically the fact that we're human. That's what we beat ourselves up for. So, oh my gosh, that discussion with your therapist is great. Okay, I want to go back to, well, one thing I want to talk about. I love the fact that you went to therapy. And I think it's more common now that people actually talk about it, but I know back in the day, it used to be, oh, I don't want to tell anybody I'm a therapist, or that I go to therapy, which I think is great because we have all these swirling thoughts and just talking to someone and hearing someone say, listen, you're human.
Mhm.
A little jarring in the moment, but it's like, oh, right, duh.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we have swirling around our minds that are just so ridiculous, really, that we don't even realize are swirling until we say it out loud to someone
Mhm.
and have them say, yeah, you're human.
Yeah. No,
Anyway,
that's right. And
so
I
there's
just
that.
think maybe one of the most powerful things I got from therapy is that, you know, the ways that I'm screwed up really aren't that special. Like they're
They're
pretty
really
common,
not.
actually.
Right.
They're pretty much the same things that everybody else she's talking to are saying too. But until I went and talked to somebody, I felt like I was uniquely broken, right? Like I was
Yes.
uniquely screwed up and couldn't figure it out. And I was the only one. And it turns out I'm in really good company. And
Yeah.
that's freeing. Like, okay, well then I'll just let my weird flag fly because
Yeah.
you've got one too, whether you're showing it to me or not.
Yeah. We're all broken. We're all screwed
Yes.
up in some way, yet we all feel like
Yes.
we're the only ones, which
Yes.
that in itself is pretty screwy.
That's the lonely part.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all screwed up. Let's just accept
Yeah.
it.
Let's just say it.
Okay. And I also want to talk about the fact that you have a cleaning lady, because this is something that we were talking about before we started the call. Also something that so many people don't want to admit because we feel like, oh, well, I'm supposed to clean
Mhm.
my own house. Basically, m- so many things that if we're capable, we should be able to do it. And
Yeah.
there's so many, that's when we really suffer, is when we have a difference between what we think should be for whatever reason. Somebody told
Mhm.
us at some point, or we were conditioned to believe, and what is, then we suffer, and another reason to beat ourselves up. So I
Yeah.
love that you have a cleaning lady and that you
Thank you.
just
And
shared
our
that.
housekeepers are
And
wonderful and
yeah,
also want to work. And so,
yeah,
we were, as we were talking about before, we go through these experiences where like, I have this thought of if I was a good wife, I would handle all this on my own and then we wouldn't need that. And then you like say it out loud and you're like, ooh, that doesn't
what
sound
is
right. Like
that
who
all
said
about?
that? That wasn't me. But that's messaging that we absorb. And whoever you are, men, women, we all get messages that get internalized and then we decide are true instead of taking them out and examining them. And, I would shave so many other things out of our budget at this point because it relieves so much stress on our relationship, on our free time together. We both, have other things outside our career, 2 boys, there's a lot of life. And so we just decided together to prioritize that. And, he doesn't have any issues with it, right? Like he's just like, oh, great. It's me that has to like talk myself into remembering that this is a good thing and that it's a story. And so to just do the thing that I really actually need. I was sharing that the reason that this happened for us was I went to a weekend workshop with my favorite author is Liz Gilbert. Like she's just got so many gems of wonderful wisdom. And we went through this exercise of permission slips, of like giving yourself permission to do the thing you're not supposed to do, but that you really want to do. And it was so fun to listen to people. It was everything from I'm going to eat from my fine china every day because I love those dishes. And why the hell are they sitting in the cabinet?
Yeah.
Or like, mine was, why don't we have a housekeeper? Like, I really hate cleaning and I really don't want to argue with my husband about it. And so why don't we just do that? But like all these things that we tell ourselves stories that we're not supposed to have or we shouldn't want. And in reality, nobody cares. Like nobody's wondering this about you. So you could just go ahead and let yourself do that thing that makes your life better. And remember that nobody actually is worried about it other than you.
Nobody thinks about us to the degree we think they do. We really, they just really don't. And it's so funny because it's a bit narcissistic to think that people are actually thinking about us. Like people have anyone listening to this has already forgotten that you have a housekeeper, Kris. I mean,
right. And never cared to begin with.
No. And if they do, that's weird, right?
That's something for them to be curious about.
Yeah. I mean, if they care and think it's a bad thing, okay, sounds like a them problem, not a you problem.
Yeah.
And also the China thing is so funny because my mom has China from, I don't know. I don't even know whose China it is, but she's trying to figure out how to get rid of it because nobody wants it. Yet we all have this stuff that we're keeping for good. What does that even mean? It reminds me, I need to take some China we have out of the basement to use because I think it's great. And I just haven't done it yet. But otherwise, it's just something for somebody to take care of when we die, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you, that's what kind of part of what the Costa Rica house is about. One of the things I keep thinking about lately is, we spend so much of our life waiting to do something until the right time. So like I planned to do this when I got closer to retirement. And there's just no promises in life. And, no, I didn't have all the money in my pocket. So I'll share another confession. I took some of my retirement out and I put it in real estate.
Kris.
Another big no-no, right?
I know. I suspect that anyone listening can probably envision the look on my face and the sarcasm there anyway, go ahead.
And just thought, I'm not going to wait to live. This is a thing I've been saving for retirement since I started my career, and I'm just going to make this decision and I'm going to do this thing that's going to help me live more now and also won't set me back from being able to live in the future. So it's a balance of those things.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to break that rule and do the thing that I want to do that's going to make my life happier now and also won't ruin it later,
Yeah.
And I just did it. So that's what we're doing. And because I'm really trying not to wait to live anymore, and to just find things that make me happy and figure out how to put them in my life.
It's kind of ridiculous in some ways how we kind of have this sense that we're supposed to do all this stuff we don't want to do now so that someday we can do what we want. Yeah. We might die before then. Right. We might die before then. I mean, and it feels, it's almost like we feel a certain level of guilt about it. Like we're breaking some rule because we're enjoying too soon. Yes. We should actually, and I realize this is a bit of an exaggeration, right? But we really kind of feel like, okay, I have to do all these things I hate now so that someday I can stop doing those things I hate. What if we started doing things we wanted now.
Mhm.
What?
Right. Well, so that's funny. One of the workshop that I did in January was really it was called Shaping the Future Through the Present. And the whole idea was we all make these lists of things we want someday. Um,
Yeah,
and we don't always make the decisions now that even get us closer to that. It just ends up
right.
being a dream that we may never even reach. And so, what if we turned those things we wanted in the future into something I could do now? And, maybe that's not buying a house in Costa Rica. Maybe it's like, I want to be promoted. Well, yes, that's what I want. But instead of just having a goal of getting that promotion or not, which is a very finite and specific thing, how do I want to be? What can I
Mhm,
do now? What I want to be is a leader who empowers others and who can be trusted. That's
mhm,
something I can do right now. And maybe it leads to the promotion of that director position, I thought, or maybe because I'm being the person that I wanted to be, maybe another avenue opens up that I couldn't have even imagined that I've now prepared myself for because I didn't wait to do the thing until the goal arrived. I just started living the way I want to live that goal is attached to now. And
yes.
and I will tell you the number of people who've said things that like, I told my friend we were going to start getting together more when I retired. And I called her and said, what are you doing next weekend? What are we doing? Why are we
Yeah,
waiting for these
yeah,
things? I'm done waiting to live.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I think a lot of it too is we don't necessarily admit to ourselves what we want. We don't give
Yes.
ourselves permission to consider what we want. We feel
Hmm.
like we have to focus on what we need. And if it's not a
Right.
need, then we just shouldn't even acknowledge it. It's like we
Yeah.
don't have the okay to do that. I mean,
Hmm.
we feel like, maybe we feel like we need to keep money in retirement. Well, I mean,
Hmm.
yeah, okay, there's definitely some logic behind that, and it's not, "Oh,
Yes.
everybody take money out of your retirement and
Right.
go buy a house in another country," but we just don't even always give ourselves permission, and this
Hmm.
is, it's just, funny because my mom's 84, and I remember when she bought her car, it had this is a little extreme, but it had a moonroof, but she was buying a used car, and she almost didn't buy it because it had a moonroof, and she didn't need one.
Oh,
Like, well,
wow. Yeah.
right, but it's okay. We don't die and then get some gold medal that said, "You
Hmm.
survived. You endured life, and you only
Hmm.
focused on your needs, and so you win.
Yeah. You win the suffering award. Great
Yay,
job.
you!
Yeah.
And now
Well,
you're
your
dead."
prize is regret.
Yeah.
Right?
Here's your prize, and now you're dead.
Yes. And so maybe we start with things like sunroofs,
Yeah.
or just like, even though I have little ones in the house and it's hard to get any alone time, I'm carving out 5 minutes that are mine.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna do that thing, even though it's uncomfortable for me and for everybody else. And we practice with the little things so that when we get to the big things, it feels less scary. And I'm constantly practicing the same thing. And then sometimes doing things that felt like a great idea and it turned out they weren't. Like that's the other side of
Right.
it. But it's either that or do nothing. And
Yeah.
I'd rather just keep practicing and living and learning all the lessons and getting a little bit closer each time to learning how to tap in and know which ones are the right ones. And
Yeah.
it's all just practice. Yeah.
Right.
I think sometimes we edit our dreams or we block our own abundance because we've convinced ourselves that before we even realize it, there's a subconscious belief that we don't deserve that thing or that's not for us or I should be doing this or that. And we don't stop to examine it. And sometimes those messages are true. Maybe it's not time now. So it doesn't mean it's never true. But I think being present with the question and realizing that might also be living here too gives us the opportunity to make a decision about that, to decide I'm going to listen to that thought, or I've decided, actually, I think that's a story and I'm going to go ahead and try this anyway. And that's the thing I'm constantly kind of flipping back and forth is this a story or is this my truth? And that's the other value, that just spending a few minutes a day connecting with my own inner wisdom and learning to feel what that feels like and how she sounds when she knows something is true. Um, has taught me the difference. And so I step in it a lot less when I learn, now that I've learned how to listen to her a little bit more.
That's so great because we have, I love how you said that, we have these unexamined stories because we don't know all the stories we have. We don't even give ourselves permission or even consider the idea of stopping and really thinking about what they are. I
Right.
mean, just it's not that you were consciously living your life thinking or even recognizing that you thought you should buy a house in another country someday. It's not
Right.
like you woke up and you thought, oh, here's my thought right now. We just have all this stuff swirling around that we don't take time to even consider.
Yeah.
It's made me realize, this whole examining beliefs thing, something I had never considered years ago. When I'm saying to my kids, sometimes I will automatically say, do you need that? And
Mm.
I have to stop myself and think, well, maybe he doesn't need a new game. I mean, yeah, his life will not end if he doesn't have this new game. So probably somewhere in his mind he thinks it will, right? But
Right.
but really trying to understand why he wants it and
hmm
helping them understand that it's okay to want things,
hmm
right? It doesn't
And
mean
how
that
does
they're
this
necessarily
stack
going to
up?
get it. Yeah. Yeah.
How does this
Do
stack
you
up with
want
the
this
other things that
more?
you want? Maybe
Mhm.
we have to make a
Right.
choice. So which
Right.
one of these is calling to you more now? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But not automatically eliminating just kind of dismissing his desire because it is a desire and not
Yeah.
a need. I think it's
Oh, I
important to
think that's
understand
beautiful.
actual needs
Yeah.
versus want, but I also am realizing I do have all these stories about needs versus wants that I don't even realize I have until suddenly I'm
hmm
saying, "Do you need that?" in this,
hmm
lectury mom tone.
Probably the same tone you talk to yourself about. Do I need
That's right.
that? You
That's right.
know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I know
It's
that's what my voice does. Yeah.
that's that cassette player. Yeah,
Who
absolutely.
are
And it's
you
that
to be
tone.
wanting that? Who are you to be going after this? And I'm like, well, I guess I don't know, but who else should be? Like, if
Yeah.
not me, who? And why would they deserve it more than me? And
Yeah.
maybe I won't get it, but I'm going to try. It was making me think that I think maybe that's one of the most powerful things. The other thing I learned in therapy was I still remember the first time she said something to me about, let's tune in, let's listen. What's a thought that's coming up? And so, I don't remember what the thought was at the time, but I named it. And she said, and so who's thinking that thought? If you're listening, then who's thinking it? And I was just sort of stunned into silence. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what that means. And she's
Yeah.
like, if you're not the one thinking it because you are listening to it, then that thought isn't you. Then that thought is something that isn't you. And if it's not you, then it's something we can examine or decide if it's true or it's not. And it was just like this, like, light bulb for me of like, oh, that's not me. That's my mind. So that's a separate
Yeah.
thing from me. And that means that I can listen or not listen to it the way I do with a friend or my parents or my
Yeah.
husband or whoever. And it was just, that was a life-changing moment.
Yeah. And that sounds so weird, right? But it's
Right.
true.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about that. We're not taught this. It's just,
hmm
here's how your brain works, biologically speaking. And then we're conditioned to have all these stories and beliefs that we don't even
hmm
realize we have. Oh my
But
gosh.
there are a lot of
Okay.
practices where the brain, like they call the heart, the mind of the mind,
Mhm.
because that's another place that can listen to the mind and decide if something is true or not. So often I'm like listening to my mind, but I'm also listening to my heart and until, and then deciding which one feels more true, but just learning to be embodied and to know that my mind was saying something and to know that my heart might be feeling something else. I mean, shoot, that was a 10-year practice by itself.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. And you haven't figured it all out yet, right, Kris?
oh, no, 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 no. Yeah. I just am aware of that sometimes. How about
Yeah,
that?
sometimes, sometimes. And
And the rest of the time, I'm looking for that ladder.
where in the hell did I put that ladder?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so I have two questions for you.
Yeah.
One, what would current Kris say to younger version Kris if you had the option to do so?
Hmm. Yeah. I probably wouldn't try to even bother telling her much because she wasn't a great listener. I don't remember any time she ever took someone else's advice and didn't need to go learn that experience the hard way. So I don't think because I got a lot of great advice during that time that I didn't listen to. I think if there's something I could message to her, it would be that we're going to be okay. I spent so much of my younger self comparing to everybody else, trying to figure out if how badly I was broken, if I was worthy of love, if I was worthy of good things, if I should be having those things, and was I going to be okay, and how far off track am I, and have I now made a life-ending decision that I can never come back from? And I made a lot of mistakes in my young years, and I just wish I could go back and tell her these are all okay. Like every decision you made, the good ones, the interesting ones, the really bad ones, are all going to lead you to this place where all of those experiences are going to be part of you, and they're going to shape how you are in the world and how you can empathize with other people and where they are, and they're all going to be important. And so maybe just give yourself a little grace and just go ahead and do all the things you were planning to do and learn all that stuff the hard way, and know that you're going to be all right in the end.
And it's all going to lead you to taking a group of women to Croatia and buying a house in Costa Rica.
Right?
It's
I
all
mean,
gonna be
shoot,
okay.
if she would have known that, I think she would have worried a lot less. But
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you know what? I want to ask too. You said that you got a lot of great advice from a lot of people. Was it great advice, or
Mm.
did it feel like something you should have listened to at the time but didn't?
Probably a mix of both, I think there was probably people doing their best to try and help me, just the
Mm-hmm.
way that like we try to tell our kids the things that we've been through,
Yeah.
and, to help them, maybe not have to step in that puddle, and then they just have to, like I
Yeah.
need to run my head into that wall so that I learn
Yeah.
where it is. And so
And I'm going to
some
do it
of it was
again. I'm
that.
going to keep beating my head against this wall because that's
Mhm.
part of it. Yeah.
But then there are moments where, for whatever
Mhm.
reason, you're in the right space, you're in the right moment to hear what somebody's trying to tell you, and it sinks in. I remember this moment of I had just gotten in trouble because I had been with some friends who made some poor choices, and I was lamenting about how unfair it was because it wasn't my fault, and why does this always happen to me? And my boss at the time said, if you didn't put yourself in those situations, you'd never be in that situation. And like, that's so obvious. But it was the first time I ever stopped and thought, oh, like
Yeah.
I'm the one who went to that place with those people. And I do know that they tend to make interesting decisions. So my choosing to go there opened me up to that possibility. And it was like one of those like explosive moments of realizing what agency is, and that like I could choose to decide to take that risk or not take that risk, but I was making a decision. It wasn't just happening to me, and like
Yeah.
somebody probably told me that 100 times in different ways. I don't remember any of those times, but I remember that one.
Yeah. You had to hear it at that moment.
Yeah. And that's why
Right.
at Goodwill, we talk about that a lot, because it's one of the reasons I feel so strongly and connected to Goodwill's mission is that we're all on a journey, and some of us start further behind than others. And, I went through some tough times with substance, and, I was arrested a couple of times. I mean, I had some struggles in my late teens and early 20s, and they cost me some opportunities, and I had to accept some consequences. And lots of people tried to help me along the way when I wasn't ready to listen. And then there was this moment where I had this job, and somebody looked at me and said, I know you can do this. I believe in you. And that time it stuck and I made the right decision. And then I learned that I could make the right decisions. And, so we always talk about at Goodwill, not everybody's in that space in this moment. And you might be somebody who's setting the stage, or you might be the person who gets to be the one who's there in that moment to make a difference when somebody believes in themselves a little more. And then they take the agency to turn their own life around, or to stabilize housing, or to, get a car, and those kinds of things that can change your life. And I think the reason we keep growing and we keep learning is so that we can then shine a light for others and not worry so much about whether we're the first person or the middle person or the one who gets to say it the time it lands. But if we just keep putting ourselves in the way of being the person to try and help, eventually you do get to have those moments, and you get to share what you've learned, and somebody's there to hear it. And that's, the other beautiful part of being a human.
Yeah. And we can't, I think, recognizing too that no one can save us.
Yeah.
People can help, but we have
Yeah.
to be open to it and saving ourselves. And we can't save anyone else. I mean,
Right.
we can
Mm-mm.
try, but
You
yeah,
can
it just
put out
feels
a hand.
sometimes. Yeah,
You
you can
can
put out
offer
a
a
hand.
step, but
Absolutely.
somebody has to
Absolutely.
take that step, has to
Yeah.
take your hand. And
Yeah.
the brutal and beautiful part of being a human is that sometimes that happens and sometimes it doesn't. And how do
Yeah.
we continue to want to put our hand out and also make peace when somebody doesn't take it,
Right. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything's wrong with the person. They're just not in the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're on a different
That's
rung
great.
of that ladder.
I love that you recognize that maybe the younger version wouldn't have even listened.
100%.
100%. That's great. Okay. And Kris, where can people find you? How can they find out about your trip to Croatia, your upcoming trips to Costa Rica, all the things?
Yeah, I would say then the best way to keep in touch is on my website. You can sign up for my newsletter. So as I have workshops and events, I'll have some things coming up in April and May, and then I'm working with Kirkwood on some things for the fall. So signing up for my newsletter is the best way to learn about it. We'll start curating some experiences with the house this summer and fall. So I'll be sharing that when that starts to be ready. Right now, the Croatia trip is full, but I'm planning the trip to Costa Rica next year. So as that trip comes together and I'm ready to share it, that's where I'll share that information. I've got, and so it's just thecommonthread.world. So that's my website. And then my Instagram is the Common Thread Connections. And I'm on LinkedIn a bit. I try to keep my stuff updated there. But Instagram and my newsletter are probably the best ways to get in touch. Everything's really kind of unfolding right now. So I don't exactly know where everything's headed, but that's the best way to find out. But as soon as I know, you'll know.
Well, of course you don't know where everything's headed. None of us do. We just try to act like we do.
Yeah, exactly. I've just accepted that I don't know.
Yeah, you finally just accepted it. Not all of us have. Thank you so much for being here, Kris. This was so fun. I just love all the things that you're doing and continuing to do. And thank you so much for everything you shared today. Love it.
Thanks for having me. This was really fun. It was good. It was so great to catch up, and I can't wait to see you again.
Awesome. Same.
Thanks so much for listening to the Dash Mindset Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player, tell your friends, and leave us a review. Follow me on my social media platforms highlighted in the show notes, and get in touch with me at thedashmindset.com. Share the topics you'd like